slammed its screen first into the marble cake. The room fell silent. Frosting, shattered glass, and gasps frozen mid-laugh. My daughter's sweet 16 died right there in that bakery-rented room, under pink streamers and cheap disco lights. My name is Rachel Monroe. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever looked at your own family and wondered if they were secretly rooting against you? My sister, Vanessa, stood there, smug, righteous, a glass of rose in one hand, a fake apology forming behind her teeth. Lily's face crumpled, silent, too stunned to cry. I stepped forward, fists clenched, but my mother's shrill voice pierced through the tension. Rachel, don't escalate. Escalate? 10 minutes later, 2 cops walked in. Not for Vanessa. For Lily. Disorderly conduct, the officer muttered, as if we were in a bar fight. Not a birthday. Vanessa, ever the drama queen, sobbed on cue. She told them my daughter attacked her over a simple misunderstanding. I stood in front of Lily, shielding her, but then my father handed over a signed witness statement. So did my mother. They'd backed her story. They let my daughter get cuffed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I did one thing. I walked over to Lily as they read her rights, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Don't worry, baby. I promise you they're gonna pay." The officer hesitated. Maybe something in my voice chilled him. They took her away anyway. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the family portrait above the fireplace, the same one we took at Vanessa's wedding. I remembered how Lily was the flower girl. I remembered how I paid for half that wedding. I remembered everything. In the morning, I filed for temporary emancipation for Lily. I used every legal thread I had from my old paralegal days. But that was just the beginning. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to post. I was going to destroy every lie they ever built from the inside. And 3 months later, my mother couldn't sleep. My father was vomiting in the church parking lot, and my sister was knee-deep in coffee grounds sorting trash in a county jumpsuit. But we're not there yet. This isn't about revenge. It's about making truth undeniable, one broken lie at a time. 3 days after the arrest, Lily's charges were dropped, quietly. No apology. No correction. Just dropped. But her name still sat in the juvenile system, like a bruise that wouldn't fade. She'd stopped speaking. Barely ate. And every time the doorbell rang, her shoulders flinched. I knew I couldn't fix it with hugs. Not this. I needed something bigger, surgical, permanent. I started with the police report. My sister's version had been signed by both my parents. They claimed Lily had thrown the phone and lunged. I requested the venue's security footage through a lawyer friend. Turns out the camera caught everything. The smash, Vanessa's smirk, and Lily's stunned silence. No lunge. No throw. Just a 16-year-old girl watching her life fracture in real time. I made 4 copies. One went into a safe deposit box. One to my lawyer. One to Lily's school counselor because my daughter didn't need rumors shadowing her college dreams. And the last one? That went to Vanessa's job. See, she worked as a youth behavioral therapist. Yes, therapist. And I knew her office. Knew her boss. Knew her boss's boss, who once flirted with me shamelessly at a fundraiser. I scheduled a meeting, shared the footage, then leaned in and said, if she can lie this easily about a child, imagine what else she's capable of. Her boss didn't blink. He just nodded, grim, slow, like a man watching a building tilt before the collapse. She was put on immediate suspension. Vanessa exploded, of course. Called my phone 32 times in one night. Left voice messages like, "You vindictive psycho," and "You're ruining my life over a phone?" No, Vanessa. Not over a phone. Over my daughter. But the best part was this. The voicemail she left, the one where she admitted, "I didn't think it'd go this far. I was just trying to scare her," was recorded automatically. Guess who I sent that to? Yep. Her employer. And the detective handling the original case. Meanwhile, my parents? Silent. But their guilt was starting to rot them. I could smell it in their hesitation, in the just checking in texts, in the flowers they left on my porch like cowards' confessions. Too late. They picked their side. And I was just getting started. Some lies bruise. Others bleed when you pull them out slow. It was my father who cracked first. He showed up on my porch in a worn jacket that still smelled like his garage. The same man who'd signed that report like he was approving a damn grocery list now stood with a tremble in his lip, holding a box of apple fritters like a peace offering.
I didn't invite him in.
He looked past me, hoping to catch a glimpse of Lily. She here? I didn't answer.
He set the box down like it meant something.
We didn't know it would go that far. We thought. You thought siding with Vanessa would keep the peace, I said. But peace built on betrayal isn't peace. It's rot. He looked like I'd punched him. I'll testify, he whispered. I'll tell them she made us lie. Your mother was scared. She was silent. I said, silence is a choice. And I shut the door. But he'd already given me something, confirmation that the report was coerced. I took that to my lawyer, and together, we drafted a formal request to the DA's office to reopen the investigation, this time with new evidence, the surveillance footage, Vanessa's voicemail, and now my father's confession. But I didn't stop there. I dug deeper. I found out Vanessa had been using our parents' address for tax purposes, despite living in a high-rise condo across town.
Fraud.
I printed it all. Receipts.
Statements.
Even a Christmas card she'd accidentally sent to her real address. Meanwhile, I enrolled Lily in therapy. A new school, too. Somewhere her name didn't echo in the hallways. I sold my engagement ring, the one I'd kept in a box for 8 years like a stupid souvenir of pain, and used the money to pay for everything up front. Every time Vanessa's world cracked, Lily smiled a little more. But poetic justice isn't poetry without rhythm. So, I timed my next move perfectly. The day before Vanessa's reinstatement hearing at work, her boss received a full anonymous package, detailed evidence of tax fraud, and the real story of what happened to Lily. I made sure it arrived with a timestamp, a paper trail, unignorable. By sunset, Vanessa's hearing was canceled. Her job terminated. No severance. And my favorite part? The silence. No calls.
No threats.
Just silence. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers and lets the silence choke them slowly. The first time Vanessa called me after losing her job, she didn't scream.
She begged.
Her voice was hoarse, like she'd already spent hours screaming into pillows or empty wine bottles. Rachel, she rasped, I know I went too far, but you're destroying my life. I didn't say a word, just let the silence sit. She filled it like a coward always does. It was just supposed to scare her. Lily was always spoiled. You let her act like a little queen. That was it. That was her reason. I hung up. Later that week, I found out Vanessa had moved back in with our parents. The condo?
Gone.
Leased out to cover legal debts. She tried applying at 3 different clinics. I'd sent a dossier to all of them, no lies, just facts. The kind of facts that made people rethink handing a title to a woman who crushed a teenager's birthday and called it therapy. But the best part wasn't her unemployment. It was what came next, because truth has momentum. And now it was crashing down the family tree. My father's church board found out about the false report he signed, thanks to an anonymous packet dropped in their suggestion box. It included the footage, the signed statement, a note. Is this who you want speaking for your community? By Sunday, his name was quietly removed from the website. His role as deacon suspended pending review. My mother cried in the pews while the sermon went on like nothing had happened. And Lily? She painted again. She filled canvas after canvas with wild reds and violent streaks of cobalt, said she felt like her insides were finally moving again. Her therapist said the anger was turning into expression. Good. Anger is holy when it moves. I watched as Lily laughed in the kitchen one night, eating cereal at 1 a.m., feet tapping to some awful TikTok song. I hadn't seen her that light in months. And it hit me, this wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was reclamation. Piece by piece, I was taking our peace back from the people who sold it like cheap furniture. and they were cracking under the weight of their own guilt. You don't need to set fire to a house to watch it collapse. Sometimes all you do is pull out one nail at a time. They showed up together this time, my mother and Vanessa, like two ghosts pretending to still be flesh. I was repotting Lily's succulents on the porch when they pulled up. Vanessa wore sunglasses too big for her face. My mother clutched a handbag like it held dignity instead of receipts. "We just want to talk," my mother said, stepping forward. "No," I said calmly, brushing dirt from my palms. "You want relief. But that's not the same." Vanessa took off her glasses. Her eyes were bloodshot. "I lost everything, Rachel. My job, my license. You lost your mask." I cut in. "There's a difference." She tried again. "I'm family." I stood. "So is Lily. And you tried to get her arrested." The silence that followed stretched thin and sharp. My mother opened her mouth like she wanted to play the peacemaker, but I wasn't interested in fiction anymore. "I dropped out of my therapy program," Vanessa mumbled. "Can't get hired anywhere. I'm applying to work at a recycling plant downtown. They pay by the hour. I sort garbage." I looked at her, finally. Her nails were bitten down. She couldn't meet my eyes. "Sounds honest," I said. "Maybe the most honest thing you've ever done." That stung. She winced. "I was jealous," she said suddenly, almost involuntarily, "of how much you loved her, of how close you two were." There it was, the black root beneath every cut. "She got the love I always wanted from you," Vanessa whispered to our mother. "And you gave it to Rachel instead." My mother blinked like someone seeing smoke where there should have been air. I didn't say anything, just watched them unravel in real time. Guilt is a strange thing. It doesn't rot in the dark. It blossoms. Louder. Uglier. Until even liars can't outrun the noise. They left without another word. Later that night, I got a message on Facebook. A girl named Marissa, mid-20s, said she'd once had Vanessa as a youth therapist.
Said she wanted to share some things.
She used the words inappropriate conversations and gaslighting. My breath caught. This wasn't just about Lily anymore.
It was a pattern.
And Vanessa wasn't just my problem. She was a risk. The revenge I started for my daughter was now turning into something bigger. Not just justice. Protection. From a woman who'd worn sisterhood like a costume and used it to tear lives apart. Marissa met me at a coffee shop off 9th and Green, a quiet spot with humming fridges and employees too bored to eavesdrop. She wore a navy hoodie and kept checking the door like trauma might walk in behind her. "I was 13 when I met Vanessa," she said, fingers clenched around a chipped ceramic mug. "She was my court-appointed therapist after my foster mom got arrested." She took a long breath. At first, she was nice. Too nice. Bought me snacks. Let me skip sessions if I needed a break. But then she started saying weird things like my foster dad probably hated me, or that I was too sensitive to survive in real life. She'd talk about her own childhood, twist the story until I felt guilty for complaining. I listened. I didn't blink, because what she described wasn't therapy. It was conditioning. "I tried reporting her once," Marissa continued. "Told the county rep that Vanessa made me feel unsafe. But they said she was highly recommended, that I was just being reactive. After that, she'd bring it up constantly. Called me a manipulator. Said no one would ever believe me again." I felt a coldness spread in my chest, not rage. Precision. I asked Marissa if she'd be willing to write a statement. She nodded slowly. "If it helps anyone else, yeah." By the end of the week, I had 3 more stories. Former teens, now adults, all willing to talk. Some had been silenced. Some gaslit. One even claimed Vanessa encouraged her to take the blame for something her stepbrother did, to keep the family peace. Same manipulation. Same venom. Different lives. I compiled it all into a dossier. Dates, names, transcripts, copies of therapy notes one girl still had in a drawer like burned letters. Then I sent it directly to the state licensing board. They opened a formal investigation within 72 hours. And just like that, Vanessa's world, already a crumbling tower, lost its last support beam. She was officially barred from practicing. Indefinitely. But that wasn't the part that gutted her. It was when the stories went public. I didn't leak them. I didn't have to. One of the girls posted on TikTok. Her video went viral. Vanessa Monroe told me I deserved the pain I was in. Over 200,000 views in 48 hours. Lily saw it. She looked at me with wide, quiet eyes. She hurt other girls? I nodded. My daughter didn't cry. She just said, good. Not out of cruelty. Out of recognition. Some people don't deserve silence. Some people need their monsters named out loud. I expected her to hide. But Vanessa didn't crawl away. She snapped. She showed up at Lily's school. Not to talk. Not to beg. To scream. Security footage showed her pacing in front of the entrance, shouting about slander, about how she was ruined by a vendetta, about me. She never got inside. The school resource officer intercepted her, but Lily saw it. She called me from the counselor's office, her voice steady but distant. She was shaking. Her mascara was everywhere. My hands clenched around the steering wheel so hard the leather cracked. I didn't drive to the school. I drove to the police station, and I filed for a restraining order on behalf of Lily. Within 24 hours, it was granted. Vanessa was legally forbidden from coming within 300 feet of my daughter. And this time, my mother was the one who called me. She's spiraling, she whispered.
She's not eating.
She said she's being followed online. Tell her to take it up with her victims, I replied. But she's your sister. No, I said. She used to be. The county reached out next. Turns out Vanessa had lied on multiple income disclosures tied to her former practice. She'd received over $8,000 in improper state reimbursements. They weren't just investigating now. They were charging her. Fraud. Misconduct.
Perjury.
And in the final twist of fate, Vanessa was offered a choice: plead out and do 6 months of community service plus repayment, or risk a full trial. She took the deal. So 3 months after smashing Lily's iPhone and calling the cops on her, Vanessa Monroe was sorting garbage in a reflective vest behind the very courthouse that once processed my daughter's arrest. That's where I saw her. Lily and I were walking out of the building after a final hearing to seal her juvenile record permanently. She was free.
Clean.
Vanessa looked up and froze. Our eyes locked. And I didn't smirk. I didn't sneer. I just put my arm around my daughter and walked past her like she was exactly what she'd become. Unimportant. Because the truth was, this was never about revenge anymore. It was about correction. She tried to bury a child with lies. And the world made her dig her way back out, with trash bags and broken pride. Poetic, maybe. But the final chapter hadn't been written yet. Not until I gave my parents one last gift. A gift wrapped in truth. And signed in legal ink. I waited until Christmas Eve. The day our family used to gather, like we weren't splintered bones. When everyone dressed fake, smiled fake, and prayed over food they'd tear each other apart for later. This year there was no dinner. No tree. Just a knock at my parents' front door, and a thick white envelope sliding across their welcome mat. Inside, a formal notice. A civil suit. Filed by me, on behalf of Lily Monroe, minor turned victim, now represented with full legal standing. Charges: defamation, emotional distress, filing of a false police report. Defendants: Vanessa Monroe, Thomas Monroe, and Carol Monroe. That's right. I sued all three. They thought this was over. They thought community service and silent shame was the ending. But justice, real justice, doesn't whisper. It roars. The evidence was airtight. The security footage, the voicemails, the school counselor's report, my father's own confession, and Vanessa's unhinged visit to Lily's school, that sealed it. The best part? My attorney offered a deal. Withdraw the suit if my parents issued a public retraction of the report, a full apology to Lily, and agreed to financial restitution, $25,000 in damages for therapy, schooling, and emotional recovery. They refused. for 2 weeks. Then my father showed up at my door. His hands trembled as he held out a signed, notarized statement. My mother's name shakily printed beneath his own. I was wrong, he whispered. We both were. I didn't take the paper. Lily did. She stood in the doorway, taller now, clearer, stronger. She read every line, then nodded. We accept. I never said a word.
Didn't need to.
The silence was loud enough. And Vanessa? She moved to a studio apartment an hour away.
No job.
No title. No audience. Her name now floats in Reddit threads and whispered DMs, a cautionary tale in teacher groups and youth therapy circles. She will never work with children again. As for Lily, she graduates next spring. Got into Emerson College with a personal essay titled, How My Mother Broke Generational Silence. She paints again. She laughs loud. She lives without fear. And me, I sleep.
Deep.
Unbothered. Because some stories aren't revenge. They're restoration. And some endings don't need exclamation marks. Just quiet,